Welcome to Trash Talk.
Welcome to the latest episode of Trash Talk. Today, you've got Dan Zimmerman and I together to discuss a bit about the belief triangle and how we've incorporated that into our company and our actions and how we present ourselves and interact with others, and not only within our company but other humans that we interact with on a daily basis. So to explain the belief triangle a little bit in detail, it's a really simple inverted triangle to say at top are your experiences, and from those experiences, whatever they may be in life, you create a belief. And so that experience drives a belief. From that belief, then you take an action, whatever it might be. Could be, I need to tie my shoe. My shoe is untied. It could be super, super simple. And then there's a result from that. And so it's really just a visual way to, lay out like, hey, as you're going through this thing called life, you're getting experiences, you're creating beliefs, driving action, and getting results from it. So yeah, it's just a super simplified visual way to kind of teach people, like, these are the things that are happening in your mind and everybody that you interact with. Zim?
Well, thank you, Mike, for including me in the belief triangle discussion. Actually, I like this one. I think this is a really good concept to understand. Taking the experience of whatever it is you're working in, whether it's your business or your work that you're doing outside of work, and formulating your beliefs from those experiences. It gives you a clear path or actions to take, and then the best part is you get to monitor the results from it. So it just feels very fluid to me, I guess, if that's a simple way to say it. But it also just kind of the way experience works into quality work and quality craftsmanship, no matter where it is. Right.
So I think that's a great thing. Like, as long as it makes sense to you, it doesn't matter if it, however it makes sense to you, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to connect with each individual in a different way. And for me, I think the belief triangle really simplifies some really complicated things in humans and human behavior and how we come to thoughts and actions. And, really it boils it down to say, you have experiences in your life. And from those experiences, you create a belief about whatever it might be. You probably have 100,000 things a day where you have an experience, you create a belief, you have an action from that, and that drives a result, positive or negative. It can happen in a split second, or an experience could take decades to drive a belief. And so I think, from a human aspect and how we process things in our minds, I think having the belief triangle in all of our offices, I know I've got it on my laptop, so I see it constantly. And it just reminds me to try and think about, okay, I'm having this experience. What type of judgments am I making? Everybody's perception becomes their reality. And really for me, it helps me kind of slow down and take a step back and say, okay, am I creating a perception out of assumptions, or is there an actual experience here that is driving my actions? So for me, it's a good tool to slow down.
The really interesting concept about your experiences, though, and whether or not those experiences are positive or negative, really does kind of formulate your belief on that. And I think as we look at it, from the company perspective, we want to really gravitate towards those positive experiences that we've had. So those beliefs that we have really do allow us to go to the right action. And so I think that it's really important to look at both sides of that. You've had good experiences with it. You've had bad experiences with it. How do we formulate that belief within those experiences to make sure that it works for our company and to make sure that we're leaving it better than we found it. And having sort of that flow to it really kind of does, Mike. It slows you down a little bit. You got to kind of think about it. And it requires a lot of interaction with folks and communication to really get that experience to belief part. Because if that's right, the actions seem very fluid and easy. And ultimately, you're looking at results that you knew were going to come. So, again, the belief triangle is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's a good thing. It's pretty straightforward.
Started this, we were talking about humans' attention span being 8 seconds these days, a second shorter than a goldfish. So you have to, you really, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know how to look at that from a human aspect, but you really have to boil things down and simplify it. And I think, the belief triangle is just one tool or one aid that we've created here at the Landfill Group. And I think if you pair it with the decision tree that we've created, so leaf decisions, branch decisions, trunk decisions, root decisions, and you really pair those two together, man, what a powerful tool to empower people, not only in their work life, but in their personal life. If you really take a second to slow down and think about, like, okay, do I need to let my wife know that I'm buying a pack of gum? Or is that a leaf decision? Or did I have an experience one time, dovetailing the decision tree into the belief triangle? Did I have an experience one time where I bought a pack of gum and my wife was really upset with me? That was an experience that drove a belief, action, and result. So I think those two together, if, we just, not just with the Landfill Group, we, as people interacting with everybody on a day-to-day basis, if we really combine the two of them, man, it seems like it could really simplify communication, our outlook on life and business. And I think the two of them really work well together.
And they fall into a bigger group called culture. And that's a pretty big deal.
I mean, ultimately, that's what we're trying to build with all this, right?
I mean, that's our culture, right? That's how people talk about,
you can have a shitty
trying
culture, you can have a good culture.
Prove our culture or not have a culture. And I think, having the tools here allows us to kind of utilize that and sort of evaluate that culture a little bit too, when we're figuring out whether or not these things are working, right? You got to look at everything.
I'm super glad that you brought up culture, right? Because how a lot of people can dismiss or look at something like the belief triangle and be like, man, what is this cheesy thing that this company is trying to do? Or the decision tree, like, I know how to make decisions. Why do we have to have some sort of program to make decisions? And I think, taking it to culture, these are just, they're all the little puzzle pieces. Our values, vision, mission, how we operate on EOS, how we have the belief triangle, the decision tree. You start putting those things together and not only living by them, embracing them, you're creating a culture. And we're trying to create a winning and positive culture at the Landfill Group. I think we've done a phenomenal job, comparatively speaking, to most organizations in creating that culture, but it's not something you create these things, set them on a shelf, and say, thou shall, and everybody's going to adopt it. No, we have to constantly remind ourselves that we have these things and these guides and these principles that we need to embody.
That's right. It's interesting we're talking about the belief triangle, but we're also talking a little bit about the tree, right? Yeah. Who's making decisions on the tree? But to me, coming from a culture that wasn't like this, it's really interesting because you're given the opportunity to make decisions. Leaf, branch, stump, root, whatever it is. That's opening the door to make decisions, whether you make good decisions or bad decisions, but you're owning the decisions that you make. But it really just lets you do it, right? It says, hey, listen, we expect you as a professional, as someone in our family, we expect you to make some decisions. We also expect that you'll probably make some wrong. But we're gonna get around it because we're gonna own them, and then we're gonna figure it out, because that's what we do. One thing I think the Landfill Group cuts itself a little short on is figuring things out. This company can figure things out.
We actually coined Will coined a phrase around that, is figure out how to make it work. And, it reminds me of a conversation I was really, really early on after getting out of high school and starting to work at a pretty large company, and was put into a position where I was on second shift, and I was leading a shop of about 40 mechanics at 19 years old. These are 40, 50-year-old mechanics, kind of rough around the edges.
Maybe.
My boss at the time, he said, "Mike, you're here on your own." He said, "Make a decision. Whatever it is, whatever input you have, or data points that you have to make that decision on, just make the decision. I don't want you to wait. I don't want you to call me. I want you to make that decision. And whatever the outcome is, make another decision behind that." And so it really resonated with me at an early age to say, we're going to make decisions, and not all of them are going to be the right decision. But you know what you have to do right after that? You have to make another one. And like, how do we figure out how to make bleep happen? And yeah, we say it all the time. Like, walk out on that branch.
Yep.
Like, I want you to come back in to talk to me after you walked out on that branch and it broke. Like, all right, we learned something. Like, let's move on and make another decision. So really, I think, the belief triangle, the decision tree, our values, vision, mission, our credo card, which, Lord, I hope I have one in my wallet. I think I just gave it away to somebody.
I've got one.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you tie all these tools together. You can't look at them in a vacuum, or they become less impactful.
Slogans.
Yeah, that's an old one, Dan. You need to get a new one.
It's still good. It's
Still
still
a little
good
beat up.
Everything in my wallet is.
I can't even open it.
I believe that I can.
If you look at the belief triangle and you relate it back to the Landfill Group, so the Landfill Group started out as Enerdine Power Systems in 1991. So we've got 30 plus years of experience at this point. From that, we've driven a belief that what we're doing and what we're building benefits not only the company and the people that work for the company, but the people that we interact with. From a financial standpoint, from an environmental standpoint, from an energy policy standpoint, we've got that belief. So the actions that come from that as we continue to build these projects and facilities to beneficially use landfill gas. The results from that are economic, environmental, personal. That's probably a super high level way to look at the belief triangle. And one thing that really kind of comes to mind is when we were looking at building our Dubuque, Iowa facility. A small facility, really not a facility that a lot of people could or would build just for financial reasons. Really hard to scale down a renewable natural gas facility, really easy to scale up. And we were looking at it and kicking it around, and so our experiences were these projects work well. We're really good at them. I went through the actions and results piece of that, and at a certain point we realized the field of dreams was right around the corner from the facility that we were looking at building. And it's kind of an aha moment. It's like, well, if we build it, they will come. It was a downtime in the market. It was a really small project. A lot of people, would not have built this facility, and it turned out to be just a great success for us, a great success story. I interact with a lot of people that are still to this day, like, amazed, like, you guys could get this done and build this and make it work. So, again, taking it back to the belief triangle, right? We've had those experiences, those beliefs, actions, and results over the years, and we applied that. Now, the cheesy tagline, "If you build it, they will come," kind of came from that. We call it the belief triangle, right? It reminds me of a bumper sticker that's out there. So going back to the belief triangle, the bumper sticker says, "Don't believe everything that you think." And it's brilliant when you think about it, because, you believe based on experiences. But if it's really just a thought, you shouldn't, that's not a belief. A thought is not a belief. And so I think the belief triangle really illustrates that. And again, that tool to slow down to say, is this just a thought or do I actually believe this? As I look at the belief triangle, it always reminds me of that bumper sticker. And it's truly great words. Don't believe everything that you think. I also think, so Mark Twain, famous author, right? Got some great quotes, not always that polished. And I'll butcher it, but his quote around, it ain't the things that you don't know, it's the things that you know for sure that just ain't. They get you. And so, those two, like, quotes or phrases, I always, whenever I see the belief triangle, I tend to think about them. And again, use it as a tool to say, that's a thought, that's not a belief. Don't, that's not a conviction. Like, slow yourself down and don't judge.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time. I'm like struggling back here, like trying to listen to you, but I can't. These socks.
They're wonderful, aren't they?
Look at these socks. Can you see these socks? Those are confusing.
I don't have my elf ones on today. I went tropical this morning.